You are listening to a 31 Pearls production audiobook. All rights are reserved.
The Kebra Nagast, Chapter 48. How they carried away Zion. And behold, the angel of the Lord appeared again to Azarias, and he stood up above him like a pillar of fire, and he filled the house with his light. And he raised up Azarias and said unto him, Stand up, be strong, and rouse up thy brother Elmias, and Abasa, and Macharai, and take the pieces of wood, and I will open for thee the doors of the sanctuary. And take thou the tabernacle of the law of God, and thou shalt carry it without trouble and discomfort. And I, inasmuch as I have been commanded by God to be with it forever, will be thy guide, when thou shalt carry it away. And Azarias rose up straightway, and woke up the 3 men his brethren. And they took the pieces of wood, and went into the house of God. Now they found all the doors open, both those that were outside and those that were inside, to the actual place where Azarias found Zion, the tabernacle of the law of God. And it was taken away by them forthwith, in the twinkling of an eye, the angel of the Lord being present and directing. And had it not been that God willed it, Zion could not have been taken away forthwith. And the 4 of them carried Zion away. And they brought it into the house of Azarias, and they went back into the house of God, and they set the pieces of wood on the place where Zion had been, and they covered them over with the covering of Zion. And they shut the doors, and went back to their houses. And they took lambs, and set them in the place where Zion was hidden, and they sacrificed the sheep thereto, and burned offerings of incense thereto. And they spread purple cloths over it, and set it in a secret place, for 7 days and 7 nights. The Kebra Nagast, Chapter 49. How his father blessed his son. And then the king of Ethiopia rose up to depart to his country. And he came to his father that he might pray on his behalf. And he said unto him, Bless me, father. And he made obeisance unto him. And the king raised him up, and blessed him, and embraced his head, and said, Blessed be the Lord my God, who blessed my father David, and who blessed our father Abraham. May he be with thee always, and bless thy seed, even as he blessed Jacob, and made his seed to be as many as the stars of heaven and the sand of the sea. And as Abraham blessed Isaac my father, even so shall thy blessing be. The dew of heaven, and the spaciousness of the earth, and may all animals and all birds of the heavens, and all the beasts of the field, and the fish of the sea, be in subjection unto thee. Be thou full, and not lacking in fullness. Be thou perfect, and not lacking in perfection. Be gracious and not obstinate. Be in good health and not suffering. Be generous and not vindictive. Be pure and not defiled. Be righteous and not a sinner. Be merciful, and not oppressive. Be sincere and not perverse. Be long-suffering, and not prone to wrath. And the enemy shall be afraid of thee, and thine adversaries shall cast themselves under the sole of thy foot. And my Lady Zion, the holy and heavenly, the tabernacle of the law of God, shall be a guide unto thee at all times, a guide in respect of what thou shouldst think in thy heart, and shouldst do with thy fingers, whether it be far or near to thee, whether it be low or high to thee, whether it be strong or weak to thee, whether it be outside or inside thee, whether it be to thee in the house or in the field, whether it be visible or invisible to thee, whether it be away from or near to thee, whether it be hidden from or revealed to thee, whether it be secret or published abroad to thee. Unto thee Our Lady Zion, the holy and heavenly, the pure tabernacle of the law of God, shall be a guide. And David was blessed, and he made obeisance and departed. Chapter 50. How they bade farewell to his father, and how the city mourned. And they bade the king farewell, and departed. And first of all they set Zion by night upon a wagon together with a mass of worthless stuff, and dirty clothes, and stores of every sort and kind. And when all the wagons were loaded, and the masters of the caravan rose up, and the horn was blown, and the city became excited, and the youths shouted loudly, awesomeness crowned it, and grace surrounded Zion. And the old men wailed, and the children cried out, and the widows wept, and the virgins lamented, because the sons of their nobles, the mighty men of Israel, had risen up to depart. But the city did not weep for them alone, but because the majesty of the city had been carried off with them. And although they did not know actually that Zion had been taken from them, they made no mistake in their hearts, and they wept bitterly. And they were then, even as they were when God slew the firstborn of Egypt. There was not a house wherein there was not wailing, from man even to the beast. The dogs howled, the asses screamed, and all those who were left there mingled their tears together. It was as though the generals of a mighty army had besieged the great city, and had captured it by assault, and looted it, and taken its people prisoners, and slain them with the edge of the sword. Even thus was that city of Zion, Jerusalem. And King Solomon was dismayed at the weeping and outcry of the city. And he looked out from the roof of the palace, the fort of the king's house, and saw the whole city weeping and following them. And as a child, whom his mother had removed from her breast and left, followeth in her footsteps crying out and weeping, even so did the people cry out and weep. And they cast dust upon their heads, and they shed tears with their eyes. And when Solomon saw the majesty of those who had departed, he was deeply moved, and he trembled, and his bowels quaked, and his tears fell drop by drop upon his apparel, and he said, Woe is me, for my glory hath departed, and the crown of my splendor hath fallen. And my belly is burned up, because this my son hath departed. And the majesty of my city, and the free men, the children of my might, are removed. From this moment our glory has passed away, and our kingdom has been carried off unto a strange people, who know not God, even as the prophet saith, The people who have not sought me have found me. From this time forth the law and wisdom and understanding shall be given unto them. And my father prophesied concerning them, saying, Ethiopia shall bow before him, and his enemies shall eat the dust. And in another place he saith, Ethiopia shall stretch out her hands to God, and he shall receive her with honor, and the kings of the earth shall praise God. And in the third place he saith, Behold the Philistines, and the Tyrians, and the people of Ethiopia, who were born without the law. The law shall be given unto them. And they shall say unto Zion, Our mother, because of a man who shall be born. Will this man then be my son, who is begotten of me? The Kebra Nagast, chapter 51. How he said unto Zadok the priest, Go and bring the covering which is upon Zion. And he said unto Zadok the priest, Go and bring that covering which is upon Zion, and take thee this covering, which is better than that, and lay it over the 2 cherubs which are below it. Now this covering was made of threads of the finest gold wirework, twisted together, and hammered out into a pattern, and they were not woven like the threads of purple. And the 5 mice which were given to Zion, and the 10 figures of their shame, the emerods, which the nobles of the Philistines made for their redemption. Now on the fringes are figures of gold that came forth from the land of Kadesh, which Moses in Sinai commanded should be made in the fringe of the apparel of Aaron his brother. Gather all these together in the covering of Zion, and give them to my son David. For his mother said in her message by Tamrin her servant, Give us some of the fringe of the covering of Zion, so that we may worship it, we and those who are in subjection unto us, and all our kingdom. And now give it to him, and say unto him, Take and worship this covering of Zion, for thy mother sent a message concerning this, and hath said unto thee thyself, Give us some of the fringe of its covering, which we can worship, so that we may not, like the heathen, worship another god. And Zion, the tabernacle of the law of God, shall be unto thee a guide wheresoever thou art. But it must remain with us perpetually, although we have not paid it all the honor which it is due. And you, although it be not with you, must honor it, and revere it according to what is due to it, and what is meet. For God said unto Eli by the mouth of Samuel the prophet, I wished you to remain, thou and thy father's house, to offer up incense to the tabernacle of my law, and to dwell before me forever. But now I have repented. I will turn my face away from thee, because thou hast treated my offerings with contempt, and hast preferred thy sons to me. And now him that honoureth me I will honour, and him that esteemeth me lightly I will esteem lightly, and I will destroy all thy seed. This he said because the Levites had esteemed him lightly. This he said because the Levites had esteemed him lightly. And say unto him, Take this covering of Zion, and this votive gift shall be in the place of it, and place it in thy sanctuary. And when thou takest an oath, and makest another to take an oath, swear thou and make him to swear by it, so that thou dost not make mention of the names of other gods of the heathen. And when thou sacrificest, let thy face be towards us, and sacrifice to Jerusalem and the holy Zion. And when thou prayest, let thy face be towards Jerusalem, and pray towards us. Chapter 52. How Zadok the priest departed. And Zadok the priest went and gave David the covering of Zion, and he delivered unto him all the commands which Solomon had spoken. And David the son of Solomon rejoiced because of this, and he marveled, and held himself to be blessed exceedingly, and said, When the covering of the tabernacle of the law of God was committed to his charge, this shall be to me my lady. And Azarias answered and said before his father, Thou rejoicest over the covering, but how very much more wilt thou rejoice over the lady of the covering? And his father said unto him, Verily he rejoiceth over the lady of the covering, and he might subjugate all of us if he were not going to his own country. And he said unto the king, Make now a covenant with me, that thou wilt give to this my son this possession for his lady, and his sponsor, and his protection, that he may guard it all the days of his life, for himself and for his seed after him, and that thou wilt give him tithe, and that thou wilt give him a city of refuge in thy kingdom, and also the 10th of the cities in all thy kingdom, and that he shall be unto thee priest, and seer, and prophet, and teacher to thee and to thy seed after thee, and the anointer of oil of thy kingdom, for thy children and thy children's children. And he said, I agree. And they made a covenant, and he received from his father the votive offering, and the covering of Zion, and a chain of gold. And they loaded the wagons and the horses, and the mules in order to depart, and they set out on their journey prosperously, and they continued to travel on. And Michael the archangel marched in front, and he spread out his wings and made them to march through the sea as upon dry land. And upon the dry land he cut a path for them, and spreading himself out like a cloud over them, he hid them from the fiery heat of the sun. And as for their wagons, no man hauled his wagon, but he himself, Michael, marched with the wagons. And whether it was men, or horses, or mules, or loaded camels, each was raised above the ground to the height of a cubit. And all those who rode upon beasts were lifted up above their backs to the height of one span of a man. And all the various kinds of baggage which were loaded on the beasts, as well as those who were mounted on them, were raised up to the height of one span of a man. And the beasts were lifted up to the height of one span of a man. And everyone traveled in the wagons like a ship on the sea when the wind bloweth, and like a hat through the air when the desire of his belly urgeth him to devour his companions, and like an eagle when his body glideth above the wind. Thus did they travel. There was none in front, and none behind, and they were disturbed neither on the right hand nor on the left.